Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
By the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, one of your hosts. Tate will be joining me in this episode. Tate and I recently sat down to speak with Stacey Chillemi, who is, well, she's a lot of things, actually. She wears a lot of hats. She is a holistic expert, author, writer, health and healing speaker, dedicated yogi, holistic wellness enthusiast, and herbal guide lifestylist. So she does a lot of things, but she writes and speaks about holistic health, herbal health, natural ways of helping your body be healthier, etc. And she's going to talk a lot more about that herself and give you an idea. She has been on shows like Dr. Oz. She is a speaker. She has written, I think she said, over 20 books. She is a health coach and she does a lot. I don't know if she actually sleeps, although she talks about sleep and the importance of it, so I think she must sleep. But she is a really interesting woman, and I think I'm going to let the interview speak for itself because you don't need me to tell you what Stacey's about to tell you in the interview. So let's go ahead and turn to that interview with Stacey Chillemi.
Hi, Stacey. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It is wonderful, and I do have Tate here with me to speak with you today.
Hello, Stacey. How are you doing there?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Now, I'm going to start things off by saying I'm a little jealous because I understand you've been traveling a little bit. Do you want to tell our audience where you've been and what you've seen?
Oh, well, I took about 3 weeks off from my job, and I flew down. I saw Croatia. I went to Italy. I visited different areas of Italy that you hear so much about. I went to Florence, and I went to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and I went to a lot of different places like the Macchia Coast, and then I flew over to Greece, and I went to a bunch of different islands in Greece, and I actually went to Athens and saw some family that I haven't seen in over a decade.
Nice. Now, one quick question about your travels is you brought up one place that I have been curious about because I've heard it is quite amazing, but it's not a traditional place that a lot of Americans travel to, and that's Croatia. What did you think of Croatia, and what made you go there?
It's really nice. I heard a lot of nice things about it. It's Italy's neighbor, and it's a beautiful country. It's you don't really hear too much about it, but a lot of people that like to travel know about it. They like to go there because the scenery is so beautiful. The water is crystal clear. It looks aqua blue, and you can see all the way to the bottom. And a lot of people like to get away just to receive some calmness and relax and get away from the stresses of life. That's definitely a country to visit, and they preserved a lot of history there too. So you get to see a lot of things that were there for hundreds of years, and it's really a nice place to go to if you have a week or two to spare.
Yeah, I kind of heard that. I heard it's pretty amazing. So, I mean, a lot of the places that you went were some of the traditional places that you went, but when I heard Croatia, I'm like, wait a minute, this is a great opportunity to learn a little bit more here that you don't traditionally hear about.
Right, exactly.
And I would love to hear everything, but since we are here to talk about health and wellness, I suppose
Well, it's healthy to travel. It's good for
right.
your well-being
That's
to
right.
travel.
But let's actually get to know you a little bit, Stacey. If you could share a little bit about yourself and the work you do, that would be great.
Okay. Well, I am a health coach, and I focus on natural healing, how to heal the body naturally. I started many years ago. I've been helping people for over 2 decades. I had developed epilepsy at the age of 5 years old, and I struggled all my life with trying to find a way to control my seizures. And over the years, when I went to college, I was really struggling. I'm like, how am I going to do this if I can't control, the seizures I'm having? And I really wanted to move on with my life. And so I decided to write an article, and I wrote an article into the epilepsy organization, and I talked about my illness, and I talked about, I asked them if they could post the letter I wrote, and I asked other people to share with me how they deal with the disorder and how they cope with it and how they get on with their lives. And surprisingly, I received over 300 to 400 letters from all over the United States and Canada, and people were sharing with me about their illness, how they cope with it, and it was amazing. And at that point, I realized that that I wasn't alone, and that that everyone has something, and that you really have to do your best to try to live with it and to try to cope with it. So, with all those letters, it was such an inspiration. I actually put a book together called "Epilepsy, You're Not Alone," and it took me 7 years to finish it because between college and my career, I finally finished the book, and it actually hit a bestseller on Amazon. And people from all over were writing to me and thanking me for writing the book because there wasn't many books out there on epilepsy. And I really saw how it helped people, and I was like, wow, I never realized how words could have such an impact on people's lives, but it really does. People really, can change their lives by reading an article or listening to someone, with an inspiring story. And then I had started to work for an herbalist, and I had started to do a lot of research for him, and I started to learn a lot of things that I wasn't aware of. And I actually started to apply a lot of those things to my own life. And I started to do different things like detoxification, using different herbs, changing my lifestyle, my sleeping habits, doing a lot of different things. And, I was able to actually get my seizures under control, and I was able to move on with my life. And I started out with a little blog on Blogger, and it was like 400 people started to go on, and then all of a sudden 10,000, and now we have over 200,000 followers on our website. It's been amazing, and I actually wrote a book to teach people because I said, if I could help people with epilepsy and I can help myself, you could actually use the same techniques and apply a lot of these healthy living techniques to anything, to just improve your life, to tweak your life, to help a condition like high blood pressure. So I wrote a 500-page book on epilepsy, on herbals, and to teach people how to use herbals and how to help themselves as well. So that's what I've been doing, and that's how I got started.
That is pretty amazing. When you talk about epilepsy, a lot of people that don't deal with it or don't have a family member may not know a lot about it, but I'm familiar with it from being, when I'm a lot older now, but when I was a young kid, I had a school teacher that actually had epilepsy. And for the most part, she was just a normal teacher, but then every once in a while, a few times a year, she would have like a seizure. And so everyone would have to know about that. And so I'm very aware of what comes with epilepsy. So what are some of the things that you did? Like how long has it been since you've had a seizure? And what are some of the things, when you talk about like diet and exercise, what are some of the things that you've done to control it?
Well, it's been a long time since I've had a seizure, but I've been actually, what I had to do is really change my lifestyle and change my way of living. I had to learn how to, eat differently. I was eating a lot of carbohydrates. I was eating a lot of food that had a lot of sodium in it. And that was actually making me very, it was causing a lot of inflammation, and people don't realize, but inflammation, when you feel bloated and your body looks swollen, it's not just water in your body, but you actually have water on your brain too. And sometimes for a person with epilepsy, that pressure could actually trigger a seizure, just having too much inflammation in your body itself. And I had to change my eating habits. I did a whole detoxification on my body where I just cleansed my entire body out, and then I started fresh and I started eating healthy. I started focusing on vegetables. I started knocking out a lot of meat out of my diet. I started to just eat a lot of healthier foods, and I also started to exercise. People don't realize, but you don't have to be in the gym for 2 hours. You could go to and exercise very lightly for like 15 minutes to a half an hour, and that may be all the exercise that you need. You just need to circulate the blood, and you really need to just keep your body moving. And and for people who lose weight, there's other ways, including exercise, that kind of work together. There's and then I worked on my sleeping habits, which I had to really focus on getting enough of sleep and not putting stress on my body. So people don't realize, but stress has so much impact. Sleep has so much impact, and it can cause so much stress on your body. 90% of the illnesses are caused by stress on the body. So, you can only imagine. And when I was with Ariana Huffington, she had just wrote a book that I reviewed for her, and she was telling me that she almost died from sleep deprivation, from not getting enough of sleep. So that tells you right then and there how important sleep is. Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, all I can say is wow. You've actually written 20 books, and I was just looking at the list. I love that you have a couple of children's books about epilepsy. Can you talk a little bit about those specifically, but then any other books that you want to highlight?
Oh, sure. I wrote 2 children's books. I wrote My Mommy Has Epilepsy and My Daddy Has Epilepsy. And I wrote that I had 3 children. I had 3 healthy kids. And, for children, seeing someone with epilepsy could be very scary, and it could really put an impact on a child. And, the first time my kids saw me have a seizure, it was very scary for them. I was walking the dog, and I had a seizure, and I fell to the ground. And, sadly, I was walking on the sidewalk, so my head hit the sidewalk, and I just got a little niche on my head, and I cut my head open just a little bit, nothing major, but as you know, when you hit your head, and if you cut your head anywhere you will bleed profusely,
Yeah.
And so my kids were freaking out, and they, and then I had just moved into this neighborhood, and I knocked on the neighbor's door. I'm like, "Hello, my name's Stacey. I'm sorry to bother you, but I have epilepsy, and I just cut my head, and I was wondering if you could come over while I call the ambulance." It's like, one of these crazy, but I needed some help,
Wow.
and there was nothing to do, and then I had to, when I came home, I had to kind of calm the kids down and really explain to them, thoroughly, and try to make it so they understand, and there's not many books out there that to explain what epilepsy is, and a lot of times, for a kid, they just don't get it. It's very scary to see anybody have a seizure, even for an adult to see another adult have a seizure. It's very scary. So I made pictures, and I just did a little thing about the whole day that happened. And, I put my kids in the pictures, and I drew, myself and walking the dog, and then I explained, in the book, this is what you do if your mommy or daddy has a seizure, and I went step by step, and I made it, more like, so it didn't seem so horrifying to a child, and, they kind of get it, and if it happens, they'll know what to do.
If you listen to, any of the podcasts I host, that I do love books, and I love when people write books that help children to understand different issues and different, complex situations that they might encounter in the world. So I really love that Stacey wrote those children's books. We are going to take our first break of the podcast. More with Stacey when we come back, so stay tuned.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Before the break, Stacey was speaking about an experience that she had where she had a seizure when she was with her children and how that inspired her to go ahead and write 2 children's books about what it's like having a parent with epilepsy. So let's go ahead and get back to the interview.
That's pretty amazing. When we were talking about before, having a teacher, I was very young when I had this teacher. So I think I was like in 3rd grade. So, and then to have a teacher, they tell you about it, but as a little kid, you're never prepared for that. So I can understand what you're saying, and having these books for someone, for their kids and things, I could see how that would be so helpful.
Yeah, you really, especially for children and even for adults. A lot of adults don't know what to do either, so it could be very horrifying, and a lot of times, like when I had it when I was young, there weren't that many books out there, and the books that were written by doctors, and they were in medical terminology. So if you were just a normal individual and you didn't have any background in the medical field, it just went over your head, and that really annoyed me. So I tried to put out as many books as I could on different areas, to help people understand, and even with using herbals and fitness and eating right, I feel is so important because it can help you with any condition. And so I've been trying to teach people and, trying to put out books to try to explain and help people gain a better understanding, especially with herbals and vitamins. And, if you don't know what you're doing, you actually could hurt yourself. So you have to be very careful, and people have to really understand, what these herbals are, what they do, and how much to have and how much not to have, and what ones to stay away from, and so forth. And also people that have, take medications, they have to realize too that, people that are on high blood pressure medication or high cholesterol medication, any type of heart medication, certain, herbals are just as strong as medical drugs. And a lot of times they use herbals when they're making these drugs. And that shows you, the effectiveness of these herbals when they're putting in medications to make a lot of the medications they have on the market. So, if you take one herbal and you're taking a medication, they can intercollide with one another, and you could actually, have an interaction, and not a very good one.
Mm-hmm. So let's say I was someone that was interested in changing my lifestyle, maybe looking into herbals, changing how I eat or how I exercise, and I came to you. What would our initial conversation look like as we kind of established our relationship, me, a new client, you, the health coach?
Well, I would first want to know what you're doing currently. We have to go to the root of the cause, where your life is at this point, what you're doing, what you're eating, how much you're exercising, everything that you're doing. And then we have to, look at some things that might not be so good, or things that you could actually tweak and make better. And, with eating, I always I think detoxification is very important, because you don't even realize it, but, the food we eat, the air we breathe, even the makeup we put on our face, they all have toxins in them. And, over time, you build toxins in your body. And a lot of times what happens is your body doesn't know what to do with these toxins. It's not familiar with it. So it stores it. And as it's storing it, then you get sluggish, and your organs don't, act as well as they should. And you're not functioning on the level that you actually should be functioning on. So when you detoxify and you cleanse your body from these toxins, you're actually starting your body fresh, and your body's able to function better. Your metabolism, can go up. You can become more energetic, more focused. You can see a lot of improvements, and even with your conditions, it could improve your condition possibly.
Okay, thank you.
Now, when you're, listening to you, there's a couple of things that kind of popped out to me as I listened to you. There's three that I've noticed that, and someone who has taken advantage of, going from a person who was not very healthy and becoming a person who has become pseudo healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I notice it's traditionally these three things, which is quality sleep, exercise, and then a lot of people preach that detoxing for very early on.
Right.
If you're a person who is trying to get control of your weight and your health, how important can you get the same results by not detoxing, or do you think that detoxing is that important that it should be the first thing you do?
Well, I've known many people that have dropped a tremendous amount of weight and they didn't detox. Detox is not just about weight loss. It's about improving your ultimate health, improving your body, not just in weight but in how it functions, and improving how you can focus mentally. Detoxification, kind of goes into more than just weight loss. I have friends, and I know so many people that have focused on just eating healthy and cutting down on their portions, and they have lost tremendous amount of weight. But to me, I don't even like the word diet, because weight loss, it's a way of life to me. It's if you want to
really
stay thin, or you want to maintain your weight, it's not about being good for so long and then going back to your old habits, because once you go back to your old habits, boom, you're going to gain the weight back, and it's just, it's about changing your life and changing the way you live, and once you do it and you do it for a while, it becomes so natural that if you try to go back to your old ways, you're not gonna. It's not gonna feel good anymore, because your body's gonna get so used to of functioning well. When you put all those unhealthy foods in your body, you're gonna feel that heaviness, and you're gonna feel that sleepiness feeling that you get when you eat foods that don't agree with you. And it's and you'll notice the difference. Your body will actually have a hard time breaking down the food, because it hasn't had to break down that food like that in so long.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I find that. Going from a person who, as on this show, people that have listened to the show realize that I have lost over 130 pounds, doing the keto diet and doing different things.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. But one of the things that I think people don't realize is when you clean your system out, and when you're exercising, you're eating healthy or maintaining a healthy diet, your energy level definitely goes up, and you don't realize when you're out of shape or when you're having issues how sluggish you are.
Right.
But when you become healthier, you realize, you look back and you're like, wow, I was really dragging.
Yeah.
And I understand. I'm listening to you. I understand the whole point of, sometimes when you hear the word keto, it can be a negative thing, because a lot of people, you think of like people just eating bacon. Mm-hmm. I did the keto diet in a more healthier way, where you're eating a lot more leafy greens and healthy fats and things like that. So I ate a more healthier diet, which is kind of what you're kind of pushing, or not pushing, but promoting, is eating more of a healthier lifestyle. For someone who's just starting out, what would be some of your recommendations for, as far as if they were coming to you? I know you said, just traditionally you'd have to get a better understanding, but are there certain things that are always part of that major staple of what you should do to change your life?
Well, I definitely, think portion control is a big issue too, because what we think is normal in the United States is not normal. Even like if you go out of the country, you will not see portions like you see in America. You go to a food restaurant, and you'll see they give you portions enough for 3 or 4 days, that you're supposed to eat in an amount of 3 or 4 days. Their portions are huge, and people, when you get used to going out and you see these big portions, you get accustomed to thinking that's normal, and it's not. If you look at, the great idea is, look at a Weight Watchers plate. They make these little plates and they sell them on Amazon. It tells you how much of veggies you're supposed to have, how much of meats and fish you're supposed to have, and protein and so forth. And your body doesn't need all that food. Your body just needs a little bit, and it suffices. And you will feel full once you get used to eating normally. And also processed foods. Processed foods kill you. They destroy your body. And we're so used to, in America, eating so much processed foods. We think it's normal. If you go outside the country, a lot of the foods that they allow in the United States, they banned outside of the United States because it's so unhealthy for your body.
Give me some examples of things I apologize, didn't mean to cut you off. I was like, some examples of things to let our audience, because I've heard this before, but it's never been kind of expressed. Do you have some examples of things that you can eat in the U.S. that are like banned in other countries?
Well, for the first things that come to my head is like the dyes they use. In the United States, it's all about marketing. So, people don't realize, but a lot of the food we eat has no color to it. They put dyes in it in order to make it look attractive, so people want to eat it. Like like if you let's say someone, what?
There's a food dye yellow 5, and there's a red something. Yes.
Well, I know they dye hamburger to make it look redder.
And they put arsenic in chicken also to make it plumper and last longer, stay fresher.
Oh, I didn't know that one. That's a weird one there.
Wow, nothing like poisoning.
And all these things can give you cancer, and they know that in other countries, and they've banned these things in other countries. They put chlorine on carrots when you buy the fresh carrots, and then if you have it in your refrigerator too long, you start seeing that white. You're thinking, oh, they're getting old. I got to throw them away. But that's the chlorine coming through. And it's starting to become visible after so many days. So, every time you eat a carrot, you think about, you got to wash that thing real well because you have chlorine on top of that carrot. When you first buy it, you don't see it.
Wow.
So that's why people say, go organic, but then America makes everything so expensive, so people can't afford to go all organic because it's a fortune in America.
Yes.
But you go outside the country, they're growing everything in their backyard. It's amazing.
I actually I host the book review podcast as well, and I spoke with an author several months ago who was doing stories on people who had moved here from other countries, and one of the things that came up in a lot of the stories was the food and how they were just so surprised that they didn't know where their food was coming from and they didn't recognize so many things in the grocery stores, etc. So it is.
Well, they look and they taste different. They not only look different, but they taste different as well. They don't taste like they do in other places.
Exactly.
Interesting. So now, talk to me about some of the other things. I know you've written a book. You've written a number of books.
Yeah.
But you talk about being a health coach. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you do with some of the things that you do with your clients.
I also teach positive thinking because a lot of clients, like I had a client I was talking to yesterday, and they were discussing how some of their conditions have been causing them, they just feel so down and they just and then the medications they were trying to put them on were making them feel anxious and making them feel having these mood swings, and it was really harsh for them. And one thing while you're trying to work on helping your own conditions that you might be going through in life, positive thinking is the key, and it's the key to anything, even weight loss. It's the key to just surviving and coping with life in general, anxiety, stress, blah 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 blah. You have to be positive in life, and we all go through our ups and downs, and life is like a roller coaster ride for all of us. I haven't met one person that has told me they had the perfect life and no stress. success. We all go through things in life. It's learn how to cope with it, learn how to be positive, not focus on the negative, trying to put the negative in back of you and just focus on the positive, because the positive will give you the strength, the courage, the wisdom, and the hope to move forward and to, get to your goals.
I just have to say that I have some friends who are the absolute most amazingly positive people that I have ever met. And while I am not that great at it, I do have exceptionally good role models in terms of looking at the world with a more positive viewpoint. So I'm very grateful for those friends. But we do have to take our second break of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll be wrapping up our interview with Stacey Chillemi. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, and we'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Before the break, Stacey was speaking about positivity and the power that having a positive outlook can have on your life. So let's go ahead and get back to that interview.
How do you teach someone to be more positive, for someone who's traditionally a very positive person? You look at it like either you're a positive person or you're not. How do you teach someone who's not to become positive?
Well, I wrote a book on positive thinking, and I wrote a book to teach people how to focus. There's ways that you can create. The book I wrote was the Secret of Happiness and Success. It's Master the Power of Positive Thinking, and it talks about how step by step you can take yourself from being negative, or you can take yourself from just not seeing the bright light of life, and changing your whole way of thinking. And one way of doing it is to start a journal. People don't realize how powerful a journal can be, but setting goals, long-term and short-term goals, focusing and trying to push away the negative and just focus on the positive things in your life. Sometimes, we focus on all the negative things happening. We don't realize, and we're not grateful for the little things in life. And sometimes we have to be appreciative for the little things in life, because you don't realize how valuable they actually are. We don't realize that, how you go outside and have a cup of coffee on your deck, and you see the beautiful trees, and you don't realize, some countries, they don't have the luxury. They have, the lives are really bad out there, and they don't have the luxury. And people who have conditions, I always say to myself, there's people out there that have it worse than me, and that's what you have to remember. And then, you focus, and you just focus, on your long-term and your short-term goals, and you start focusing each day, doing things to get closer to those short and long-term goals, and doing things to make yourself feel good about you, because everybody has great qualities within themselves. Everybody, but some people don't realize, they have low self-esteem, or they don't think very highly of themselves, and they really need to realize the positive qualities within. And once you start liking yourself and loving yourself and accepting yourself, you'd be surprised how much you can change as a person.
I agree on that one. Especially, I'm a big person about setting short-term goals. I mean, I break goals down to each day I want to accomplish a certain number of things, and I'll make a list of things that I want to accomplish. Nothing, a little challenging, but nothing that's going to be defeating. But things that you want to accomplish this day, things you want to accomplish this week, this month, 6 months down the road. And I think that's part of you're kind of right, because I think these are things that people who consider themselves positive, they just do naturally without thinking about it. 'Cause when you started saying that, I'm like, wow, I do a lot of that.
Mhm. That's great, because it becomes like I said earlier, it becomes part of your lifestyle. When you learn how to live life healthy, that's mentally, physically, spiritually. It all goes into one big bucket, and then after a while, when you start learning and you start teaching yourself, and you become this new person, these things become just natural. And to other people, they have no clue where to begin and how to start. And to others, it's just become so natural that they don't even think of it as a chore or something they have to do. It's just part of them. This is what they do, and this is what helps them be who they are.
Wonderful. So, Stacey, if people would like to learn more about you, I know you have a website. So if you could give us your website, maybe tell people where they can find you on social media, et cetera, that would be great.
Sure. I have the website, thecompleteherbalguide.com, and on my website we have thousands of articles, not written just by me, but written by professionals in the health field. We have people and we have writers that that focus on helping people in fitness and eating healthy. We have tons of different recipes. We have all different conditions. You can type any condition in, and you'll get tons of articles for each condition, teaching people how to be healthy and how to different ways and herbal remedies and different vitamins and different foods, because so many foods are packed with vitamins. People don't realize it, but just food alone can actually heal your body, and we teach people how to do that. And we have all different things, and you can just from our menu you can just click onto so many different things, and we teach all different areas of life, and we have yoga and meditation, because those are great things that can be very helpful in life, and we teach all different types of tips and ways to improve your life and to improve your health. And we also I have a website called the Vitamin Herbal Store and .com, and it also we have a lot of different vitamins and a lot of different supplements and different things in the store to help people and to improve people's health. And they can just type in what they're looking for, and we have a lot of vitamins that are very helpful to individuals. And I also have my books also on the website. We have the Complete Herbal Guide, and it's a 500-page book, and it talks about all different herbals and all different things, and it goes into depth from where it began, the origin, to what it does, the positives, the negatives, and it'll teach you a lot of different things. It's kind of like an almanac of herbals and vitamins and health.
Thank you. Do you have any other?
No, you've been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on.
I do too, and we've covered kind of a lot of things, sort of topically, but kind of an overview. But is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would really like to talk about before we wrap up?
Well, like I mentioned before, we could always talk about this later if you ever want me to come on again, but, meditation and yoga is great. And like I mentioned earlier, 90% of health conditions are caused by stress. And yoga and meditation is a great way to release stress and to help you focus better on life. A lot of people, it's so simple, anyone can do it. Sometimes people see those amazing, yoga gurus, and they do all these crazy poses, and people are like, I can't do that. But you don't have to do that. A lot of yoga is about stretching. And it helps the circulation of the blood. It helps movement. It also helps wake you up. There's yoga poses you can do in the morning, and it helps give you energy. So you take 15 minutes before, you start the day, get up 15 minutes earlier than your norm, do a couple little poses, and you can feel so much better, so much more energetic, so much more, focused. And then at nighttime, they even have, yoga poses that you can do to help you get to sleep, release stress, clear your mind. And so these are things that, people can look into on our website too. We show different things for everything when it comes to yoga and meditation, and those are two things everyone should try to incorporate a little of in their life, because it could do wonders.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. It was really wonderful talking to you.
Oh, same here. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you once again to Stacey for taking the time to speak with us about so many topics. I can foresee us having her back on the podcast because we barely scratched the surface of all of the things that she could talk to us about. Thank you to my co-host, Tate, for joining me for this interview. And thank you to you, our listeners, for being there with us on this health and wellness journey. We appreciate you so much. I can't even put into words just how much I appreciate you. So thank you so much for being with us for this and every podcast that we do. In the meantime, and before I talk to you again, hope you're having a great week and be well.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.